Hello, everyone. Oh, that's not good. I think I've got audio issues, so well, a great start to the show. Let me see what I can do to improve that, but I have definitely got some broken audio here. Give me a second, folks. Hopefully you can hear me, but you are definitely hearing me through the wrong audio device. 2 seconds, people. Oh, what a mess. This was working only seconds ago. So how did that happen? One moment, please, and we will see if we can get up and running. How's that? Does that sound better? You can hear me, but you were on the wrong audio. So hopefully, you're a bit better now. And of course, it's going to be about 20 odd seconds before I can find. Welcome to Monday Musing. Apologies for the slight mess up there on audio. I'm not quite sure what happened. Everything was all fine. But then again, I've had some strange things happen with the USB controller on my computer this week. So it's definitely been a strange one. One of the funniest ones was where Bluetooth turned itself off. And then I realized every single device Bluetooth. I had no control at all over the computer. Fun. But anyway, that's quieter. Is that quieter better or quieter worse? That's worse. Worse is rough. Okay, hold on a second then. How about that? How about, oh dear me, I have really messed up now. Let's move that a bit closer, see if that works. That's definitely no good, isn't it? Oh dear me. What a terrible start to the show. What a terrible start to the show. I think that's better. Okay. I'm blowing everybody's eardrums out there, I think. Is that better? Can you hear me now? That's the final one. So apologies for all of that. Now I'm breaking up. Oh dear. I'm also skipping a little bit. I seem to be having some terrible data issues. That's wonderful, isn't it? I'm getting Stream Health Guide, and hopefully that's better. That's perfect. Much better now I move the mic. Oh, and I have moved the mic slightly onto camera. Can we get away with that at least? Sorry about that. Yes, because I was having problems with my devices, I've been reaching around the back of the PC, and that's what I've gone and done, haven't I? I've moved things out of the way. There you go. We've pleased the machine spirits, and we're working again. So let's do a little bit of a catch up on who's in the chat. Thank you for your patience there. That's one of those worst starts to the live show. They never go quite right, do they? Really, but we'll go. Reaper 28 was in there first, with Ralph Hummel joining him fairly shortly soon afterwards. Even I was around, I think. Well, no, actually, I wasn't too early today. I was late back from work. Surreal. Lovely to see you in the chat again. And Furious George is there. And then I think that was the crowd for a while. Gabriel Priest has joined us. Oh, right, definitely Reaper Surreal. Reaper, thank you very much for my mini assistance on the mini raid on Valrak as well. That was quite funny. I'm not sure 2 people can affect a raid, but we did our best, didn't we? And in fact, I think actually you were far better at it than me. Ralph Hummel's joined us, and he's looking for recipes for homemade airbrush cleaners. No, I've never tried it. To be honest, I don't like putting isopropanol on my airbrush, whether it's diluted or not. It scares the heebie-jeebies out of me, that stuff. I like it for some stuff, but I don't like it for other stuff. So, yeah, I don't know any recipes anyway, but that was a very early question on to the crowd, actually. Not really to me, but there's a big attempt at an answering. And talking of Big Rich is in the chat as well, which is good to see you again. And but I've heard that you're poorly, so it's a shame that you're poorly, but good that you can make the show at least. Coleman joined us with crying children, poorly ears, I believe. So sorry to hear that. And I'm really hoping I've not missed anyone. Orc Boys, Al Kirkham, hey Al, or should I say Al Ancient? I think is correct. Really, that's how it should be done. And oh my eardrums, oh dear. Anyway. Let's just see if that was just a start rather than a finish of the audio issues. Let me see. Big Rich, this is the only way you can make it. Gungazam is in there. Madass Wargaming has joined us. Derpimus Maximus is in the chat. Crikey, Robbie Cohen. Orc Boys, I think I've mentioned you before already, but you know, I like to mention you at least 2 or 3 times in these builds up. Vicious is in. Hey, Vicious, how you doing? Right, what else? Ulster Nation saying hello. Roa is in the chat. I think I've done Gungazam, I believe so. Acharya is in there with his wonderful greetings, and Militaides. Dear me, Militaides is in anyway. I like it, just that's one of those words I just can't bend my head around, but I think it's Militaides, isn't it? But anyway, audio is much better now. I've moved the mic. Oh, good news. And I think C. Mawson definitely better. Scott Bile is in the chat. Hello, Scott. How you doing? Ralph, Sean Blake. Oh, right. Goodness me. It just keeps going at the moment. Tankered has arrived. Tankered, Vicious. Oh, this is a Valrakian attack, is it? Thank you, Chapter Master Valrak. The raid is on, and you've outraided me by a long way, because my raid was pale and insignificant. Although I did think Reaper made off with some of your treasure and artifacts. So the old boys who forgot to sound the raid siren. And Retep 1001 says, your newest freemium member. Thank you very much, Reteps. Glad you could join us. It's been good, actually. Since the forum went live, we've noticed a bit of a surge on the freemium membership, which of course I think is people joining it to be able to use the forum as well, but that's all good. That's all good, and I'm experimenting because we've seen a bit of a rise in the freemium membership. One of the things I did this week was experiment with a little bit of content for our freemium members, so we'll see how that goes on. Felhate is in the chat, and Chapter Master Valrak is attempting to purge Reaper. I'm not sure you can purge the Reaper, even with the strongest of your Valrakian heresies. Great show the other day, by the way, Chapter Master Valrak. I was enjoying your sanguinius debate, whether he is or isn't dead. I'm going with dead. I think he's deader than dead McDead. Someone had to sacrifice themselves for the heresy. Someone had to lose in that, and I think it would be a crying shame if he brings him back. And if you've not seen Chapter Master Valrak's discussion on the winged one, then pop over to his channel and catch up on some of the stuff he's been covering. Joshua Dale, glorious purge. Tancred is in there with, oh my goodness me, is hitting me with all sorts of pseudo imperial language. And there you go. I think we're probably, with Gungazam and all the rest, chopping them up. It's all in there as well. Dead 2, I think the guy got his words messed up. The way you've spoiled it now is people going to go check your video out. In Valrak we trust. Well, there you go. It's been said and it's been discussed. So that's all good. Okay, well, I've got a few things to talk about tonight. Title of the show was, if I remember rightly, chapter approved, and how does it affect my armies? I think there's some direct and there's some indirect affecting of my armies, basically, I suppose, and that's what I wanted to talk about. It probably first and foremost in terms of the armies is Genestealer Cult, and like anybody who's not had their codex yet, well, not everybody who's not had their codex yet, but certainly bunch of people who haven't had their codex yet. So the factions that were given was Adapter Saratas, Death Watch, Drukhari, Genestealer Cults, Harlequins, Imperial Knights, Necrons, Orcs, Space Wolves, Tau, and Thousand Suns all received additional faction rules. And when we talk about the faction rules, what we're really talking about is crikey, the link is broken. Of course the link is broken. What we're really talking about is a few relics. Well, actually, one relic each, and a couple of. Why has my mind gone blank? Help me out here, people. Not tactical objectives, but oh come on, somebody help me out. I'm definitely having a brain wipe. Stratagems. Thank you very much, anyway, for anybody who helped me out there. So, on average, what we saw was a relic, a single relic, and a couple of stratagems. But that wasn't the case throughout all of them. I believe the Tau Empire only received one stratagem as well. I mean, don't forget you've got access to all the stratagems inside the main rule books and all the rest anyway, but it's just nice to see something that's a little bit unique. So I want to go through a couple of those things. I think the other thing is I'd like probably the main subject, if you like, of tonight's musing to take about half of the time up, I suppose, and then I want to open up to a few questions to the chat, but I also want to ask some questions of the chat and hopefully get some answers out of you people. So I'm really hoping some of you can hang around for the second half of the show as well, because I definitely want to talk about a few things like, you know, the kind of things you want me to cover in Monday Musings. I want to talk a little bit about the forum. I want to talk a little bit about freemium content. And I want to talk a little bit about an idea I've had as well for some different shows, I think, that we've not covered yet. So anyway, yeah, I just want to kind of put this out to the community and get some feedback. And I've been trying to do more of that over the last few weeks or so. So rather than spend ages planning something out and producing lots of it, we've been doing a few experiments and trying a few different things out and seeing how people respond and whether they're interested in it. One thing I do know from the Facebook page is, under no circumstance does a particular member of the Wargamer Online community want to see me 24/7 on the live stream. So I've certainly learned that that's not desirable, at least to one individual anyway. So we learn as we go along. It was a joke. I wasn't really going to be going all 24/7 broadcasting, but there you go. Where do we put the new Valrakian relics? The Valrakian relics have been put in the appendix of the book right behind Apocalypse Games, because, of course, any Valrakian relic would only really be applicable to something apocalyptic in scale. There you go. How about that? Okay, let's have a quick catch up on the chat before we dive into some of this chapter master talk, and then we'll see how we get on with the rest. I am definitely not running past or far past 10 o'clock tonight. I've had a long weekend and an even longer day today. I was in work at the crack of dawn. In fact, I was in work before dawn, and it's been a long day. So you've got tired Bunny Phil tonight. I'm a little bit tired, but I have the remnants of a coffee, which I rustled together before I got started on this show, and I'm hoping that's going to carry me through to the end. And we'll see where we go from there. Ooh, what I would like to do as well, I suppose, is talk a little bit about as we lead up to Christmas as well, and a few things like that. So there's a lot to cover, and as ever with these Monday musings, they rarely go into a lot of depth. But that's one of the questions I have for you wonderful people soon. Let's have a catch up on the chat, because I've definitely seen a few people saying hello, and I do like to, as you know, acknowledge people that are on the chat. So Big Rich is in there. I think I've mentioned. We've got Wes80. Is it that? Wes80, is that right? Evening Phil. Green Stuff Games is in. Hey, Green Stuff Games. Not seen you for a while. That's nice of you to join us. Thank you. That's not a dig, by the way. It's just good to have you back. Orc Boys, Reactive Island 5 saying hello. It's raiding time, so thank you very much, Reactive Island 5. By the way, awesome title. Techno Fear Phil. I certainly do have certain fears of technology when it stops working for me. Derpimus Maximus, the Red Blood First comes, the Grey Hunger, and the Blood Angels, and their successor chapters start to eat brains. I have no idea, Derpimus Maximus, where you're going with that. Oh, what if he's actually a zombie sanguineous? Well, that would be an interesting one, wouldn't it? Yeah. Although, you know, kind of zombified, fallen, rotting angel, I think is probably, we've got that one covered, haven't we, in terms of Primarchs. Derpimus Maximus, I do like, by the way, something you posted much earlier in the chat about your long painting sessions and how you have, you've taken the truck driver's approach to not having to take comfort breaks, shall we say. That's impressive, but do not wash your paintbrushes in that, whatever you do. Scott Bell says, do you know what the cost of the book is going to be? Do we mean the book as in chapter approved? Chapter approved is out. It's in the UK, it's £20. The non-clickable digital version, I think, is £15 on iTunes, at least, I believe. and I think they've gone for a straight £20 again for the interactive version. That was the term they were looking for. As you know, this latest round of stuff, I've not been a big fan of the interactive version. I think it actually displays less information to the user than the non-interactive versions. A good example of that would be the actual unit pages, where every single rule is a little interactive click where you can click to find out the rule, as opposed to when you just open the page on the index and all the rules are listed for you. So it feels like the interactive version is a backward step, to be honest. And interestingly enough, recently I accidentally purchased one of the interactive versions, and because I'd clicked on the wrong one, and I asked for a refund, and it got bounced back by iTunes saying, "Why do you want a refund?" And I explained to them in detail that my preference over being able to read the content without having to constantly click on the screen. And I got a comment back that said, "Fair point, refund issued." So I think even iTunes is with me on this one. Okay, where are we now? Who doesn't want Phil on the bog? I'm not quite sure where Surreal is going for that, but thank you very much. Oh, that must have been the 24-hour broadcasting, Ralph Hummel. Big Brother Wargamer Online. Oh, honestly, if you saw some of the behind-the-scenes stuff that went on, I'm not sure which way that would go. You never know. It might become extremely addictive television. It might not. Last night, for instance, you could have all been involved in the "do I or don't I cut the mohawks off every single one of my fire slayers," which, to be honest, if anybody's had a look at Sam's posting on the Wargamer Online forum, I think Sam's onto something there. When I first heard him talking about it, I thought, "Oh, that's just crazy." That's Sam being Sam, wanting to convert every single troop model, which he always does. You know, he's got high standards he sets for himself with these things. And I was just thought, "Oh, it's going to take him ages," but no, they look amazing. So do check out the forum. I'm just seeing if I can actually bring that page up. I've already got sidelined, haven't I? This is terrible. Is this what Monday Musings is about? Just constantly getting sidelined. I'm going to bring them up anyway. I don't care if I'm sidelined. So Sam posted up on the I think he's put it into the project logs under Age of Sigmar. So there they are with all their spiky hair, as you can see. Oh, could be slowing my internet down. There they are with their wonderful spiky hair. And Sam decided no, he wasn't having any of it, and removed the Fire Slayer's spiky hair. And I actually think they look stunning. I think they look really, really cool. They look really serious all of a sudden, and quite mean and quite tough. And he talks more about it in the blog posting, about the kind of look he's going for. And I think he called them Stuntons, because he's going for this sort of Spartan look to them. So this is, I know his intention is to go with like a bronzed flesh, brass and silver. He talks all about it there. Do get onto the forum, but that post alone is worth checking out, to be honest. I think he's really on something, and as ever, Sam goes and pulls something out of the bag. That's always amazing. So I'm pretty impressed with that, and I don't even know how I got onto that, but there you go. That was behind the scenes, the debate of whether he should or shouldn't do it. I don't even know why he debated it, to be honest. He was onto something straight away. It just sometimes sounds crazy when there's an army who their entire aesthetic is based around Mohicans. Mohawks, and he says, "Oh, I'm just going to cut them all off." And you just go, "Oh, really, Sam?" But no, that was awesome. Right, okay then. Who else have we got in? Kablams is joining us. Hey, Kablams, how are you? You're doing stunning work, by the way, on your Necromunda board. And you've been an active member of the Necromunda Worldwide group, and there's also a Necromunda 2017 group, isn't there? There's two Necromunda Facebook groups, both doing sterling stuff, and it's nice to see your content going up on there. C. Mawson, I've worked nights for 19 years. I've had no idea how you get up before dawn for work. So that's just unnatural. It was a pretty shocking start this morning. My wife took ill over the weekend, and I had loads of preparation to do for a meeting first thing in the morning. I didn't get any of it done. She was really ill. And between all running around and trying to sort everything out and not injure my own back, I then had to go prep for a meeting, so I just had to get in there like 3 hours before everybody else and do the prep work. So it was a bit of a shocker, but at least I got it done. Green Stuff Games says you keep missing the shows. Well, don't worry about it. It's I'm glad you made it along. And Jamie Armstrong has been sent along by Valrak. Hi Jamie, how you doing? I saw you actually commenting inside the Valrak show actually tonight. And were you the one I upset about saying Dark Angels were traitor? That's only I like Dark Angels, by the way. So I hope it wasn't you. Well, I did. You weren't upset. If it was you, they just said they're not traitors, which they're not really, are they? We all know they're not. But it's it's like calling Tau fish. It's just that thing you do, isn't it? Is Al Kirkham heading off to bed? I think, because I think Alt Boys is saying goodnight to him. So sorry if I missed that. Oh, Sam's saying he's filled the gaps on the helmets now as well. Well, I no doubt they're looking even better. Furious George, I wasn't going to say, isn't Phil hot with that big warm hoodie on? Purchasable from the WGO, sure would make a perfect Christmas gift. 30 degrees at 10 a.m. here. Oh, seriously, it is far from 30 degrees in my my wee converted garage / painting studio. It's probably 30 degrees below zero at the moment, so I'm far from hot. So this hoodie is earning every penny at the moment. It's definitely worth the money. Okay, what else have we got going off? I think there's some big rich chat between that. Kablam saying thanks. Chaplain Hellscorn is saying Tancred is going to sleep and the chaplain is taking his place. Thank you very much, Chaplain, for taking over. Ryan Benfield has joined us as well. Long time since I watched. Well, hello and welcome back to the show. Maybe I should start getting on with the show and we'll move on a little bit this. Why are we talking about Chaos Legions? Well, there you go. You see, we've started it all again. I am in a Necromunda hive. Yes, I am. Yeah, that's where this is one of the underhives. There's been, I'm afraid, there's a rather noxious leak taking place as well. So if you see me yawning, that's the carbon monoxide building up and knocking me slowly to sleep live on Facebook. So that's what I'm putting myself through for you guys, okay? Right, let's talk a little bit about what's been going off with Chapter Approved. I'm going to see if I can bring up... Why not, you know what, for now, let's just bring up the community stuff. I think that's absolutely fine. So why not? Why don't we just have a page up? Do you really want to see my face throughout the whole thing? I'm not sure. One thing, if you haven't taken part in the big community survey yet, then do so. There's a chance of a £50 voucher. That's not as good as our Christmas giveaway, is it? But it's not bad, is it? They're trying to keep up, bless them. But don't forget, we have a Christmas giveaway, which is £50 to a YouTube subscriber and a grand £100 to a premium member. So just to put that into context, we're giving away 3 times the amount of Games Workshop this Christmas. That's the kind of hobby clout we've got out there. So, not saying any more. Don't even ask you to fill in a survey. I do ask one question of you from YouTube, though, which is how did you find the channel? What was the first video you saw? There's plenty of stuff on the YouTube channel about that. Just look out for the December giveaway or the Christmas giveaway or whatever it's called. You will find it on our YouTube channel. And but do get along to the community survey. I think they are genuinely asking some interesting questions about what people are looking for. So that was quite good. But back to Chapter Approved. What's the big deal? The big deal for me, I think there is 3 things from Chapter Approved that I'm really taking away. That is definitely going to have an impact on my gaming and particularly my armies. First and probably the last to come will be the Apocalypse rules. I think, strangely enough, I've described them as the Apocalypse rules. I don't think there's so much rules as there are. They're okay. I'm being a little bit unfair. There's certainly more guidance on how to run an Apocalypse game, which is really interesting stuff because I think it's nice that they take players step by step through what you need to do, setting up the sides, working with other players in terms of understanding what's in their collection, getting people on board, getting volunteers to help in the structure, the setup, and the dismantling of the game, allowing for enough time. What's reasonable in terms of a playing area. Power rating comes into it, which is a sub note as well. I think for me, I'm really starting to get quite interested in games driven by power rate. By the power rating, as opposed to the points. And I think certainly for what I'd like to do for some channel content, when we start looking at narrative campaign missions, is defining that by power rather than points, and letting players experiment a little bit with their armies and their configurations. Apocalypse is definitely their recommendation is at least to drive it by power ratings, but by no means to it could be completely open play. There's some nice stuff in there about how it's obviously it's setting on time limits, schedules. For anybody who had the original Apocalypse rule books, you'll recognize some of that content. There are Apocalypse war missions within chapter approve, which I think is cool. But like I say, they focus on this idea of spending a bit of time explaining to people how to organize Apocalypse game, the 4 Ps: people, place, playing area, and a plan. And they kind of go through that 4-step process of setting up a decent Apocalypse games. Even little things like have a pot of spare glue with you, because there's so many models on the table. Something's going to get damaged, something's going to get knocked over. And I really like the fact that they've given you this kind of checklist of things to do to help the game go smooth. And I'm feeling like maybe that's something we could do for the channel at some point, is to set up an Apocalypse game. And I don't know whether you do it as a live stream or whether we could do it where we could have either try and do a live show throughout the entire thing, maybe on Twitch, and have breaks where we have team representatives come and comment on each turn and stuff like that. But I think it'd be interesting to try. We've certainly got enough boards, we've certainly got enough scenery, and with the help of the local gaming group, space for the game as well. So I think that should be an interesting thing. We've got some missions in there: Race to Destruction, the Night March, and Exterminatus. All with their own own set of custom rules, deployment zones, and various things going off on the on the battle. So there's a rule inside. Let me see. I think it was the Exterminatus one, where at the end of the start of each battle round, the players controlling the 2 War Masters roll off. The winner rolls a D3 and adds the current battle round number to the result. And you can have things like a virus bomb dropping in. Roll a D6 for each unit on the battlefield. With the exception of vehicles, add 1 to the results of the unit as more than 10 models. On a 4-up, that unit suffers D3 multiple. So all this catastrophic death and destruction taking place, which reminds me of the sort of Valador apocalyptic supplement that came out as well. So I'm pretty interested in that, and I think that's the first part of how's it going to affect my armies. Well, I think the truth is, if I can get some Apocalypse games in, then I'm going to use some models that are rarely going to hit the table. Particularly, I think driven by the price hike that they've applied to certain Forge World models. For instance, there's been a massive increase on the Revenant Titan for Eldar, for instance. I think it's gone from 1,200 points to 2,000 points. There's an 800 point increase, and it feels like they've applied a point tax and said basically these kind of ginormous beasts of battle really don't belong inside match play. That's what we've done. We've made them so expensive. It doesn't really matter. That they're ridiculously expensive and outgunned by alternative things at equal points value, because the reality is you shouldn't be using those models inside match play anyway. You should be using them inside at least a narrative and most likely open play, in which case points values is an irrelevance. So I can see what they've done there, and I think the truth is, if I was absolutely honest with myself anyway, some of these high value models, and when I mean by high value, I'm not necessarily talking about the cost of Forge World, I'm talking about the points cost. I just never put them on the table. I've got Lynxes, and they're wonderful models. I never use them because the Fire Prism is just so much more effective and so much better for its points value. I've got the Warp Hunter, which again, to be honest, was pretty good. And at its points value that was set, but again, it's received a price hike, so it makes you sort of raise your eyebrows a little bit and say, I can't see how that thing's going to make the table now. So that's what, you know, that's where I'm feeling. Apocalypse is a big impact, and the way it will affect my armies is I think I'm going to be dusting off some of the big stuff, and I am going to definitely be wanting to play a few games that are driven around PowerPoints and high PowerPoint count battles. No, and I do have to say, I think you have to watch closely those apocalyptic missions as well, because those missions are designed for you to be removing stuff as fast as possible, because those games can grind to a halt. The turns can take too long. Of course, turns are meant to be driven by time and not by completion of all movement of units and stuff like that. But you can see what they're doing now. They're pushing from one. They they're pushing this big stuff out of the points games. They're pushing it out of the match play, and they're saying, if you want these big apocalyptic battles with crazy machines of war marching across the table, then loosen the shackles a little bit and just have fun with your models and stop counting the points. I'm hoping we will see a greater adoption of PowerPoints throughout the whole system. And we all know all of these point systems can be abused one way or another. There's always going to be someone that pulls that oh no, effect and effect. I know, surreal, by the way. I did spot that afterwards, but I did mention how tired I was today. Okay, let's catch up on some of the chat before I move on to the next bit of my musings on chapter approved. What have we got going off? I think there's a few people chatting to each other, which is nice. I'm going to look out for the @Wargamer Online. So for those people that have joined us who haven't been in for a while, just give me an @Wargamer Online, one word, and then I can spot your questions a lot easier, because it's much easier to scroll up and down. So there's a question here from Furious George. For the Christmas episode, can we get Sam a Santa beard so he can feel how great it is to have a beard? Otherwise, he will be waiting forever. Sorry, Sam. Oof, let's not get into beard talk. Oh, there's all sorts of trouble to be had with that. I think we should see Sam in a Santa outfit. I don't see why not. I could be an elf, maybe. Rachel would have to be an elf, wouldn't she? Really, she's got that kind of that kind of fairy elven look about her, I think, that I just couldn't pull off. So maybe I could be a Christmas gnome or something like that. So we'll think about what we're going to do for the Christmas special. Reaper says, use the Steel Rain tactic on Apocalypse. Yeah. There's some interesting stuff in terms of the stratagems as well that are tied to Apocalypse, and the fact that you can bring entire formations back on and those kind of things. There's some nice stuff with story-based objectives and personal objectives and secret orders as well. Control the most objective, destroy the most enemy units, control the center of the battlefield with your warlord. I mean, that's a thematic in its own right. Kill the character and the opposing side of the house with the highest power rating, which makes you think twice about what's on there. Destroy the unit on the opposing side with the highest power rating. I'm loving all of this stuff, and this bringing in of power rating again. They're forcing us via that mechanism to really accept and understand that power rating is the mechanism for these bigger games. Match play and point systems is about trying to balance regularly FAQ'd, trying to balance that tournament scene out for a sense of fairness and for a sense that people to stop gaming the system. But there's an interesting point to note about the data sheets. Data sheets have PowerPoints on, but they don't have match play points. Match play points are kept separate. We've seen points of units upgraded. We rarely see PowerPoints being adjusted. And I think, again, that's just that acceptance that it's a general principle for the size and weight and power of your army. And of course, people will game it. But by the time you get up to apocalyptic scale, I think the gaming of that point systems, the benefiting from one over another, will get lost in just the sheer scale of the game, especially when you've got random stuff happening inside the game via some of those special rules. They talk about multi-table games. I've always loved that idea. I've loved the idea of 2 or 3 battles taking place in different locations, but them somehow having an impact on one game to the other. So that's one of my favorite things, and definitely something I want to toy with. The entire Zone Mortalis board that was built around the mine and the entrance to the mine, and then the build up to the city, the terrain that I've been building for some time, has all been designed around the idea of a battle taking place in multiple locations with multiple objectives. Destroy a plasma generator, destroy a shield generator on one board, and it has a direct impact on what's happening on another board. Those kind of things that you see in the sort of cinematic movies, well, there's a million things, isn't there, that you can think of. The Star Wars films where you've got the small team on the planet of Endor, I think, with the teddy bears. You have to take out the shield generator so the fleet can then take out the Death Star 2, second Death Star, Death Star Mark 2, Death Star 2.0. Anyway, the idea of one piece of narrative affecting the other is great stuff. What's going off in the oh no, Acharya says, apocalypse games, well, what can I bring? Not those 3 great massive tanks. Not those 3 great massive tanks, please, whatever you do, because they are ridiculous. Somebody was saying they're more powerful than the new I think it was Liam actually was saying he'd worked out that one of those tanks can outgun the new Primaris Forge World tank without even trying. But anyway, where are we at now? So Reaper says, Phil, can you be Rudolph? Why not? I certainly have a red nose from the charity Red Nose Day, so I could try and affect that. I also have the antlers as well, thinking about it. I mean, they're furry ones, they're not real ones. They're like you put them on your head. So why not? I'll be Rudolph. Vicious says, has there been any changes to the right, okay, the knight. Has there been any changes to the knight? Well, I can check for you. If there are, it's about points values, and they're at the back. Hold on a second there. So somebody tell me whereabouts they would come under. They're not Adaptus Astartes. They would not be Hurls for Children of the Warp. Astra Militarum. Lords of Ruin Wargear. Goodness me, Questers, Titan Legions. Here we go. So what am I looking for? No, it doesn't look like there is. Not what I can see, unless we can see the Reaver Battle Titan, the Warhound Skite, and the Warlord Battle Titan. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, it is in there. It's 600 points per model now. So I don't know. They've listed the units that are changed. I don't know whether that's cheaper or more expensive. I will leave that to you, Vicious, to tell us whether 600 points is more or not. Blood Angel Santa. I need to paint my Sanity Clause, which was an old lead model released by Games Workshop years ago. It's probably one of those things that I think in my mind it's worth an absolute fortune. It's probably worth about £1.50. When will the Christmas special be on? Did I miss the date announcement? No, you've not missed the date announcement because we've not planned it yet, but it will happen. Liam says, "Be Santa, Phil." Sam as Krampus. I don't know what Krampus is. So I hope I haven't read something rude out by accident. Tabletop Ops. Hey, Tabletop Ops, how are you doing? GW cut to Blood Angel Codex model options that they do not sell like Eldar Autarch. Never noticed how annoying until BA, because they have a ton of customized models. Your thoughts? Yeah, well, Games Workshop, of course, believe they've addressed that, don't they? They've addressed that by the flowchart that they released. That basically, and if you've not seen that yet, it was on the community page. It's available as a download in the download section as well. But it basically says, does your model have official options that are not in the codex? And you go yes, no, and if it's no, then you can go, is it listed in the index? Yes. Then you can use it in your army, but you have to apply the points of any equipment from the codex, not from the index. So it's a way of essentially doing it. How annoying is it? Yeah, for someone like BA, I should imagine that, for the Blood Angels, that is very annoying because there's lots of customizable models. For the Eldar Autarch, this is going to sound a bit weird. I rarely messed around with the Autarchs, to be honest. I didn't do much with them. I never bothered with the Warp Dent Generator one or those kind of things. So it might, personally, it's not impact me. Is it annoying? I tend to make my own little sort of little sheets anyway of information about my units anyway. So the fact that I can do that sort of customized model is fine for me. Maybe I should put the template for that up on the forum so people can download that and create their own little data slate for their models, because that's a good idea, isn't it? And that way you can just print that out. And I don't think it's too bad a thing, to be honest. At least they're allowing for it. My worry is how long is that going to last, if you like? That will be my concern, I suppose. The index, arguably the index, all it does is present you the options that are available with those models, and as long as you refer back to the codex for the points value, then no one should be able to argue what you've done is bad. Certainly they talk about obviously being able to customize vehicles and stuff in open and narrative play within chapter approved. Again, does that start to form the format? Because obviously, to a degree, underneath, one where you're not working to the direct points values, it's probably less of a concern. It is annoying. It's also, I suppose, understandable. That's what I would say. It's annoying, it's understandable, and they have provided a route for people to be able to deal with it. Scott says, for Christmas show, Sam is Santa, Rachel is an elf, Phil is a snowman, and whoever else shows up are deer. Oh, bless them, that's true. I think the maximum we can fit in the room is probably about 4 or 5, realistically, for live broadcast. I'm going to have to turn the heater up. I am freezing in here. I'm feeling like a snowman. Derpimus Maximus says, Death Star 2, Beyond the Valley of the Deafening. Thank you very much. C. Mawson says, I remember there were rules for one board being able to attack another, like Basilisk shooting on neighbouring tables. Exactly. But I also like the idea of driving, like I say, objectives on one table, having an impact of the game on another table. My particular example was, you had to get a unit. You may have a unit that was cut off inside the Zone Mortalis board, and was fighting for survival, so vastly outgunned, and its objective was to stay alive, whereas the objective of a secondary board would be to get reinforcements down to them, and being able to leave one table and enter another. And what happens is because obviously that's not about players changing the table they're on, but you would get a unit off that table, and then the opposing player picks that up as a reinforcement. So I think there's lots of fun to be had with stuff like that. I don't think it would make great channel content because it's complex and difficult to explain, and it would be a bit of a mess. But wouldn't it be a great, fun gaming experience if you took that attitude towards gaming clubs, where 3 or 4 games taking place at any one point, but all in some way having an impact on somebody else. Okay, what else have we got? C. Mawson. Campus is German in origin, I believe. It's essentially the anti-Santa. Well, there you go. Anti-Santa. Sam could be the anti-Santa. I don't think Sam would be the anti. Right. Brilliant idea with the template. Then I will get that marked up and put up onto the forum. I'm trying to think how I could do it in a way that people could do it. I wonder if I could get one of the dev guys to maybe knock it up as a HTML one to use type your stuff in and hit print. That could be a possibility. If not, I could put it inside Word or Excel or Numbers for the Mac people, maybe something like that. Oh, what about the Google stuff? Because at least that is open to everybody then. So Google Sheets maybe. How do wolves fare in chapter approved? Well, I'm happy to have a look at that. Wolves is not one of my armies. It's not one I was going to talk about, but as soon as other questions come up, let's cover it. Will have to give me a moment because I just need to find out what rule they're on. Space wolves are on 97. And here we go. Well, already I can see there is a warlord trait, Saga of the Warrior Born, which is you can choose your warlord to fight first in the fight phase, even if you didn't charge. That's significant considering how powerful some of the Space Wolf warlords are. Relic. I had read the Space Wolf relic, and it's really nice. The Kraken Bone Sword. One, that's awesome already, because I'm just thinking conversion opportunity. You could do something cool. I would probably use maybe a Tyranid scythe or something like that. I just think that's brilliant. But Kraken Bone Sword. So this is a sword carved from the sternum of a gigantic ocean beast. Brilliant. Logan Grimnar has had it from the beginning. Iark Rockfist reworked the blade, making it even more deadly. And this is a +1 strength, -4 AP, 1 damage. Reroll failed wound rolls for this weapon. You +1 strength rerolling failed wounds. It's just awesome. So that's pretty cool. And there's a couple of stratagems in there as well. True Grit, which is the armies within 1 inch of an enemy unit. Choose a Space Wolf infantry unit from your army that is within 1 inch of an enemy unit. In this phase, the model in the unit can fire their auto bolt rifles, bolt guns, bolt rifles, and bolt carbines as if they had pistol 2 type. Oh, shocking. Shocking. That could be terribly destructive. And Cunning of the Wolf. This was nice. I think this was a redeployment one, if I remember rightly. At the end of the movement phase, the unit can join the battle, set up wholly within 6 inch of any battlefield edge of your choice and more than 9 inch from an enemy model. So that is an infantry drop troop, basically, which was nice. So yeah, I think they've done well. Again, they're useful. You have to remember they're not the only stratagems you can use, but it is nice to have a couple of stratagems that are significant to your own army and will keep you going until you see your codex. Look like you have a smoke halo in the bubble. Now, as I've mentioned, that is indeed the Underhive. That's the only source of fresh air we receive down in the Underhive. So that is just the best we can do for breathing down here. That's from Felhate, by the way. Reaper says, so you like one board people got destroy generator, which means the other board shields go down and they can attack. Yeah, exactly, something like that. And Chaplain Hellscorn says, I've been tempted to call up Warhammer Edinburgh, which I visited many times, and fire my Death Strike missile launcher from Australia at a random game being played there in the store. Yeah, that's an awesome idea. I like the idea of remote locations. Wouldn't maybe that's an idea one way or another for the community, that games could be taking place literally live. Maybe that's something we could use the forum for. And where you all try and do synchronized games. It would be insane. It would definitely need a games master, I think. But it's possible, is it not? Is it not? If you could try and synchronize those turns. Right. Okay, Reaper says, is there anything about Blood Ravens? Because I'm asking Dawn of War 3 and Angela's model also. I think, if I remember rightly, no, I'm afraid there is nothing about Blood Ravens. Let me see, what was the armies that were listed again in terms of faction? No, Blood Ravens is not there. Maybe Blood Ravens are just too good to feature inside chapter approved. So unfortunately, it's bad news for you there, Reaper. Paul Collier says thanks. No problem at all, Paul. What else have we got now? I think, yeah, okay. Okay, I love the Kraken Bone Sword from Frost and Fist. Yes, that is awesome. Definitely. Jack plays or played Space Wolves. He hasn't for a while. I showed him that one sheet of paper, and he was like, "Yeah, we need to get those on the table." We were going to have a game this weekend. We were going to have two games actually. We were going to do an Age of Sigmar game and a 40k game, and unfortunately, my wife took ill, and that put a stop to anything happening this weekend. It became quite a disastrous weekend, and she's still unwell now, so that's why I've had to try and limit this show. Right, I do want to talk a little bit about Genestealer cults. You know, as I said originally, this chat was about how it's impacted my armies. I'm half tempted to talk about Necrons because it's interesting what goes off with those. Harlequins, interesting. Genestealer cult. Okay, couple of things. One, the warlord trait. So this is if a Genestealer cult character is your warlord, you can give them the following trait, which is the focus of adoration. Friendly Genestealer cult infantry units can perform a heroic intervention. Now this is Genestealer cult infantry can do a heroic intervention whilst within 6 inches of your warlord, even if they are not characters. That is awesome. That is really, really awesome when you start to think about Genestealers. When you start to think about some of the heavy hitting sort of you know, let's take a unit of aberrants or something like that, doing a 6-inch heroic intervention move and going in with some of their most horrific weapons. So interesting in its own right. I did find the relic a weird one, slightly a weird one, because the relic isn't something you actually give your warlord. It's an upgrade to the Acolyte Icon Ward, which, as Ulster Nation would know, he painted. No, he didn't paint the Icon Ward for me. Actually, I didn't. I definitely have one of those days. But yes, I've got the Icon Ward, which is nice, and essentially this is +1 strength to any infantry unit whilst within 6 inches of the bearer. Again, it enables you to build this sort of quite hardcore bubble of power. I think +1 strength, I think, is a big deal in this game. I used to think the +1s didn't make that big a deal. +1 to hit, +1 strength, -1 to say, you know, +1 to save. I think the more I've played 40k, the more I've noticed it makes a big deal to some of the games. It really does. Okay, so also stratagems in there. There is a Return to the Shadows, which is just essentially select a unit and it will just pop back into the shadows. So it's got to be more than 6 inches away from enemy. You can remove it. You can bring it back with Cult Ambush. It's just 1 CP. Nothing. Great, I'll pay that every day to pull a unit out of trouble and have the opportunity to redeploy it, or relative trouble. I mean, obviously it's got to be more than 6 inches away from enemy model, so we're not talking combat. And it's the end of the movement phase though, so guess what? If you can do that retreat, if you can get far enough away, you can then pull it off the table, and you can pull it off the table and bring it back into ambush next turn. And then you can apply the Meticulous Uprising, which is another command point. And you can use this strategy. You roll 2 dice instead of 1 for either, and then you can choose the result. And then if you've got a Primus with them, you're rolling 3 dice and selecting the result. And as we all know, I think one of the things about Genestealer Cult is trying to control your cult ambush rolls as much as possible. Make sure they go in your favor, because if you can get those rolls, then Genestealer Cult can be incredibly powerful, incredibly quick. They can surprise and hit you out of nowhere. So yeah, that's good enough for me. That will keep me going until the full Codex comes along. I was a little bit worried. I was getting very close to completion on the Genestealer Cult army, and I was a bit worried, especially with the stuff you're hearing about the Blood Angels Codex, which is nothing short of they sound horrific. I'm thinking it's going to be really hard for these non-Codex unit armies to keep up. And I think this is a timely intervention from GW just to give a leg up to some of these armies. And that's without getting into some of the point changes at the back of the table, although I think with Genestealer Cult, the only significant point change was Genestealers to 15 points before you then put weapons on them. But I've got a feeling that had already been FAQ'd anyway. It just looks too familiar. So yeah. So, I said there was three things that I think would affect my armies to a degree. One is directly through the warlord traits and the stratagems that are available to me now for these off-codex forces like Genestealer Cults, like Harlequins, like Necrons, Imperial Knights. This is all good stuff. There's the apocalyptic rule, and I think the Games Workshop push towards the moving people away from the point system and into the power rating system, and almost the push back from pushing Forge World larger models into these. This is the sense of apocalyptic game, and one where you don't count every penny simply because it becomes impractical to count every single point of a unit. The third part that I was most, and I suppose I've gone in order of excitement level. The third part, without a doubt, is the scenery rule. I've said this all along. One of my greatest concerns around 8th edition was I didn't think terrain, battlefield terrain, and scenery had enough of an impact on the game. It was predominantly a game around LOS, line of sight blocking. There's very little impact. I mean, there's a few other things around charging. It fell down to two things. You either block line of sight, or it needed to be decent, sizable area terrain to be able to fit units in. And even then, we were only talking, infantry. So that was the issue. What we've got now with the battlefield terrain tools, a couple of nice little turns, if you like. The introduction of ladder campaigns, which is interesting. So the idea of building an ongoing competition, a mini tournament amongst friends, and just clarifying how it could be quite simple to set up a ladder campaign. I like that, and I'll talk about that more maybe in one of the musings. I'm tempted to do it with the WGO crowd. I think it would be fun and would have a little bit. Maybe get us on the table a little bit more for some of the games. Battlefield terrain it's got me excited, but simultaneously there are mixed emotions from this. I feel they've spent maybe being a little unfair. I think they've spent more time on the new terrain than the old terrain, and I get what they're doing. Deathworld Forest, it's a set I want. I desperately want that. There's a whole bunch of rules attached to that now, with the Grapple Weed, the Eldritch Ruins, the Shard Rack Spines, all of these having an impact on the game. Some of them significant, some of them less so. Shard Spikes, roll a d6 every time a model moves within 6 inch of a Shard Rack Spine and a terrain. Whilst advancing or charging on a roll of 1, the unit suffers and then it stops. One can only assume that means mortal wound, but seriously, on the page it just says the unit suffers a. But I'm going for mortal wound, seeing as though every other rule, by the way, on that terrain, one way or another, generally causes a mortal wound or messes up your psychic tests or improves your psychic tests. Sector Mechanicus, interesting, but interesting more not around the thermic plasma regulators and the conduits, which all have similar rule mechanisms we've seen before. You take a save within a certain distance of them, and if you roll a 6 and you've got +1 for cover, you're getting a modified 7. And if you roll that 7, the unit suffers a mortal wound. So this is a bit of plasma sparking off. This is some kind of deadly gas erupting from it and harming you in some way. But what's interesting is the stratagems, which is a lovely idea of attaching stratagems to terrain. And it's got me thinking of creating lots of... This is a great mechanic that I'd never really considered before for homespun games, for house rules. The idea of creating stratagems around unique pieces of terrain that you've done. Because it's very... I think if you go with the, you suffer a mortal wound if you save on a 7 and stuff like that, those things get very samey. But when you can introduce stratagems that are relevant to certain pieces of terrain, and I think you could go both as a boon and as harmful. So you could apply a stratagem to a piece of terrain. Maybe if you've got a control box on one side of the table, And if you're within 6 inches of that, you spend a stratagem, and door closes on the opposite side of the table, blocking a unit from advancing or something. So I like the idea of having that mechanism, the idea of using a command point to affect the game. The interesting and obvious one is grappling hooks. It's been talked about on the channel, which is where if you spend 1 command point, essentially you can move vertically on terrain without any move modifier, and this is affecting infantry units that don't have, if I remember right, if you've not got fly or anything like that, then essentially you can move even without a ladder and have no penalty for the vertical distance. So the idea that you're throwing these little grappling hooks and you're diving around the terrain, I love that. I think that's fantastic. And I think it's really nice that I know it's a command point, therefore you could apply it to any unit, but in my mind I'd be going, they're the guys with the grappling hooks. I don't, in my I'd be trying to get a unit there because I know they're the ones that are going to employ the grappling hooks and scale up the scenery and take something out. They've got power supply, overload power core, Prometheum stuff, supercharged obliteration, and those kind of things. Nice to see all of that stuff. There's stuff about war zones, empiric war zones and stuff like that, where everything starts going terribly wrong. But the other thing attached to scenery that was nice to see is we're seeing the macro cannon strongpoint, Firestorm Redoubt, Vengeance weapon batteries, the plasma obliterator. I've got a plasma obliterator and I painted it inexplicably. I've no idea why. But it turns out it's a lot of fun. It's a 72-inch heavy 2d6 strength 8 -3 AP, 2 damage, and each time you roll a 1 when you fire the weapon, this model suffers a mortal wound. But it's got 20 wounds, it's toughness 9, it's ballistic skill 5, and it fires at the nearest enemy model. And unless you can put somebody in charge of it, and it's just and it blows up horrifically and covers loads of mortal wounds when the thing goes up. And I want to take that rule and that power level of 9, and I want to build an Eldar equivalent out of bits and bobs and spares and things like that. So all of a sudden I want to build things and do things again, and I want terrain and commandable terrain that you can take over and swing the game in one direction or another. The Imperial Bunker, there's so many things. The Aegis defense line is here, and that's great, and it's got static defense networks and automated weapons, and if you put infantry within 1 inch of the defense line behind it from a point of view of the firing unit, you receive the benefit of cover. It's brilliant. I did an Eldar defense line. It's been in a box. It's never got used. I want to bring it back into the table, and what's great is keyword faction unaligned. That opens it up to me to, okay, I'm not going to use the actual Aegis defense line model, not for my Eldar. I've made my own that looks like cool with little blue plasma glowy bits and little bone structures and all this lot, and so I can get those on the table and have some fun with that again. So I will do. So terrain's my final point, how it's going to affect my army, because terrain and buildings, I'm going to be thinking about how I can employ them as part of my army again, which is great. Where are we at? Some questions. I've scrolled up a little bit and we'll scroll back down again. And we have a question from Ralph. Any news when we will get the Space Wolf Codex? That's the next army to Death Guard. I'm really looking forward to. No is the quick answer. I would say it's a fairly safe bet that I think all codexes will be out by the end of next year. I think they've even talked about that, haven't they? So I think the longest you've got to wait is 12 months, and that might not sound like any fun, but at least with the chapter approved, they have at least given you some fun. What else have we got? Surreal, have you seen the new terrain stuff? Sector Mechanicus, Hive Shields, Ruins. Yes, I have. It's all awesome, isn't it? And that's what I was just talking about, and I'm very, very excited about it. I want to build a whole bunch of new terrain stuff. I've been looking at little things like this, and what I can do with new terrain types and things like that. But I do need to calm down, because I do need to get my Genestealer Cult army, and I desperately need to get my Karajan Overlords done, and that has to form a focus for me amongst finishing off Necromunda, because we are going to be doing some Necromunda games. But the scenery is already done for that, certainly for the playable Necromunda games. I have both Azo Mortalis board, and we have enough we have enough terrain to do gang war. Myself and Jack, the one thing we did get this weekend was some mock board layouts just to see how that would work out for the game. Surreal says how. Oh no, that's sorry. Covered that. Chaplin Hellscorn says. All Boys is getting spring next year for Spaceballs. I hope so. I hope they're sooner rather than later. Chaplin Hellscorn says, if you did a ladder campaign, do you think it would be a purely casual, or would you to be incorporate an element of narrative into it? I think if there's narrative, then it's post-rationalized narrative, because the way the ladder campaign works is it depends where you are in the ladder to who picks the game. So, you know, the way the ladder system works, I'm sure you're familiar with it, but, you know, if you beat someone above you, you go up, you know, you replace them and they drop 2 points and those kind of things. And if you beat someone below you, I can't remember what happens to them, they just go down, I think. I don't think you go up. And there's a set of rules of those, and the point is each player. I know if you haven't had a game for a month, you lose your position, don't you? I think it's difficult to weave a narrative when it's actually down to the player who they're going to take on. Part of the fun of a ladder campaign is, do I take on a top slot to gain instant favor, or do I take on somebody below me knowing I can take them out and make their day even worse? So, you know, you'd be kind of post-rationalizing those things, I think. I think it'd just be fun almost just to have that ladder campaign checklist as well. Because we all know that Sam would be at the top of any ladder, whether it was Age of Sigmar or 40k. So, but at least we'd get some understanding about what happens below Sam. Surreal, if you like the forest, check out the Outpost Pythons. I know it's £100 for the forest and some of the Imperium terrain. It's a pretty good deal, definitely. How am I doing for time? As Reaper says, it's 10 p.m. You ran over. I've only ran over a little bit, and I will be winding up, I think. I definitely haven't covered everything I wanted to cover, but I have at least covered what the main focus of what the main focus of the chat was about. So that's cool. What's on my desk at the moment? I want to cut to a few things. Can I get? Is that gonna work? Yeah. What's on my desk? This is on my desk. Streaking effects. This is my first AK interactive streaking effects. Am I on the wrong side there? Streaking effects. I'm pretty happy to be trying that out. You know what this represents? This represents me getting one step closer to completion on my Genestealer Cult, because it's time to get streaky, which is cool. I'm pretty excited about that. Yeah, move that over a little bit. This is exciting as well. The wonderful chaps the DARPA have sent this through to me, and if you remember, if you remember when I talked about this model, they'd had some problems with the master. Those problems have been resolved, and I've got a nice new version of the body to work on as well. And I'm going to be doing a triumvirate of tutorials on this. So that's going to be covering iridescent colors, purple, red, and blue. It was going to be green, but I changed my mind. I decided green didn't look that great. So I'm going to do purple, red, and blue. And bear in mind, I'm purple, blue, colourblind. Two of them, I will have no idea whether they look different or not. At Wargamer Online, what is the main focus of the chat? The main focus of the chat was my thoughts on Chapter Approve and their impact for my armies, particularly Genestealer Cult, Eldar, inconsequentially around the use of terrain and scenery, and things like, you know, for instance, my little Eldar defense line, and then also the impact on all of my armies about shifting towards playing some apocalyptic games and bringing in some of the larger Forge World models and stuff that hasn't seen the table since 8th edition launched, getting a chance to get on the table. Sleepy Tiger, oh sorry, that was Sleepy Tiger's question. Sorry, the last one. Reaper says, I have to go. Bye. I'll be on the next stream and hopefully the forums. I see you guys and have fun. Goodness, Reaper, thank you very much for joining us, though. That's awesome, and sorry to see you go, but that's okay. You've been a staunch supporter of the forum as well, so thank you very much for that. And maybe that's a good place to end tonight's show, is to just talk a little bit, just to revisit the forum and some of the stuff that we've been looking at on the forum. So This is the current set of the forum. It's been growing fantastically. 889 visits today. We've had over 11,000 visits since the forum went live, which I just think is absolutely awesome. 567 members. There's 11 people online right now with 101 topics and 660 posts. And considering it's only been up a few days, that's awesome. And here we can see some of the online people. Oh, there's me. Who else have we got there? Amit's on there, and Ortboys is on there, and Ralph's on there, and Derpimus Maximus, and Tyranids is on there. I hope I did it right there. Reaper's there, who's got to go to bed, hasn't he? So it's really nice this is a nice little feature that we can see online members. We can see what people are on and what they're doing. We can see the recent posts, and there's so much going off at the moment on there. And it's nice to have a place where we can put things like announcements on the draw. As you know, the November draw took place. If you haven't seen the video, the winners have been announced. We have moved into our December prize draw. There's a video on the YouTube channel. Go check it out. Again, it's £50 YouTube, £100 for premium members. I've been in touch with both of the winners. They've both chosen what they want, which is exciting stuff. Shall I say in advance? Yeah, why not? There is an Eldar starter set going out to our YouTube subscriber. And then the premium member has gone for a box of the Primarchs, Valkyrie, I think. And then some extra bits and bobs to make it up to £100. So that is awesome. So it's nice that we are helping and moving people's army collections on. So yeah, that's good news. Again, at the end of December, beginning of January, we'll be making the next draw as well. So anybody with a premium account will have a chance to win £100 worth of GW models. And anybody who's commented on the YouTube video will have a chance to win a £50 starter set. So there you go. It's all been going superly, and pretty pleased with the tutorial. I have Slippy Tiger. Can we have a forum tutorial for the kids who don't understand them? Absolutely. That's been an eye-opener for me. One, I'm not a mega forum user, or wasn't in the past myself, so I've had to learn quite a bit. I've had to teach this old dog some new tricks. But we were talking a youngster, young Liam, through the use of the forum. I think the important thing that we've done with the forum is we made sure that some of the restrictions on other forums aren't on ours. So, for instance, if I want to post a project log inside, say, Age of Sigmar, and what we've done is we've ensured, for instance, if I create a new topic, then I can create the topic title, I can put the description, but this is the important bit. We've built in the ability to be able to attach files. This thing here represents your own personal image library. So here's all the images that I've uploaded. There's one point to mention while I'm online: if I delete one of these, it will remove it from the post. So you do need to be careful about managing your image library. But as you can see, you can attach new files, you can upload them and then insert them into the post, and then people can come along and reply it, and you can set sticky topics, and you can subscribe to people's topics and all the rest. And then more importantly as well, we've also attached messages. So if I wanted to send Chapter Master Valrak, if I wanted to send Chapter Master Valrak a message, I can pop along here and I can send Chapter Master Valrak a message, and I'll get a little window pop up, and there I am. There's me, there's Chapter Master's comment, and I can say hello. And as you can see, there's lots going off. There's chat between the moderators, little chat with Ralph, and there's all sorts going off in there. Dave finally found something. Rich was helping out on some editors. I even informed the winner of the premium stuff that they'd won £100 worth of stuff. So as you can see, we've got messaging inside, which you get little notifications pop up and let you know when you've got a new message. You can create your own little avatars and all the rest. So I'm not saying it's as complete as Facebook is, but it's more of a social platform than it is an old style forum. As in, you can create a post, you can attach images, and you can message other members of the group. So I think it's quite nice in that respect. And the good news is there's more and more coming in terms of that functionality as well. We are working with the vendors on functionality requirements and all the rest. So it's been pretty cool, that. Right, some questions before I call it a night then. There's a couple in there. So Scott at Wargamer Online. I've caught you, Scott, even though you accidentally put a space in. I can still check you out. Phil, you do a contest and put a limo up for grabs. I will do that, Scott. I will do that, Scott. Maybe the contest should be, if your name is Scott, you get one of those limos. Does that sound right in terms of a competition? I'll have a word with the maker of the limousines. He's looking for nicely painted ones to help him sell more. So, and I know you're a huge Genestealer Cult one. So let's see if we can get, at the very least, some kind of deal done for you. Sleepy Tiger, you know what? I am going to do a video tutorial on using the forum. I think that's a worthwhile thing to do. One of the things we had added inside the main website was you know, this help section, which does need more videos, but this was, for instance, how to upgrade from premium to freemium. So we were doing, you know, it makes absolute sense. We had add into that help section you know, how to use the forum and get the most out of the forum, I think. So as you can see with this one, I'm hoping the sound's off for you guys, and I think it is, which is cool. So you can see I'm literally talking through, and I think if I remember rightly, it kind of zooms in and it helps you see what I'm clicking on and those kind of things and where you can get the information from. There you go, look. So we can do one of these little tutorials that explains how to use it, and we will add that into the help section of the website. So there you go. But and it's a good idea, so we will do that, Sleepy Tiger. Lone Wolf is getting messages deleted. I don't know what you've done, Lone Wolf, but I'm sure Kari is on that for good reasons. Furious George, did you see part 2 of the Mayor of Saltville story? It's short. You know, I'm slightly I definitely saw more about salt mines. I haven't read part 2 of the Mayor of Saltville. For anybody who doesn't know what the Mayor of Saltville is, inside one of the sections, we added a fan fiction section somewhere. I have absolutely no idea where we're at. Fan fiction, there you go. So do check out the Mayor of Saltville. It's a great story by Furious George. Oh, for heaven's sakes. Part 2. The King of Beardtown sat in his chambers surrounded by his royal guards. One of them whispered in his ear, "Sir, we have found word that Salty Sam, Mayor of Saltville, is on his way to Beardtown, and he is bringing with him an army of grey knights." Okay, look, we will I'll let that. I'm not going to read all of it because I think we'll let people come along and keep up with the Mayor of Saltsville. But also we have Reaper's Fall of Aurelia, and we have Redemptor Wing as well by Excessive Magnetization. Or I think was that commented or posted anyway. So do check out the fanfiction section. People are putting some great content in there as well, which is all good stuff. Where do we go? Oh, we're kicking trolls. There you go. So the troll, it must have been a troll has been kicked. Never mind. I didn't see any of their comments, so I am neither trolled nor offended. And thank you, Acharia, for keeping on top of those things. Proportional response. There you go. Scott says that sounds like smashingly awesome. Well, there you go. I will. I'll see if we can do something smashingly awesome for you. Okay, let's call it a night of that. I wanted to talk a little bit more about topics. I wanted to talk a little bit more about video formats. But maybe I'll save that for next week's Monday Musing, I think, and dedicate some real time to it, and I can do some preparation. Certainly one of the things I'm considering doing is not a live show, but some offline shows regarding all sorts of stuff. And it may be the kind of sort of tips and tricks and those kind of things. Or one of the things I considered doing is almost like a Google Hangout offline show where we invite 2 or 3 members of the community who comment and stuff like that to join in on a kind of offline chat, which enables us to control content in terms of language and all the rest, so we can beep and stuff like that. But it would also give us the ability to do to bring people on and let them talk about their projects. So it was almost like a video extension of the forum. Someone's posted something amazing on the forum, and we'd like to talk to them about what they've done and what they were hoping to achieve with their project. So, you know, I'm just having a look at, you know, if we were to go down to painting and modeling in the project logs, there's some great stuff in there, and I think it'd be nice to try and bring some of the community in to talk about their projects as well, and we can kind of cross-link that content. There you go. That will be enough for tonight. I am 20 minutes over. I definitely need to get some sleep. And you're quite right, Furious George. I do need to check that my wife is feeling better. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining me tonight. I hope I feel I got through a chunk of the content and it was worth your while to come along. We will see you again soon. I'm sure Achari has done all the stuff. Check out the website, check out the community, check out this month's giveaway prize. The premium membership is a great giveaway as well. So if you're not already a premium member, it's only $2.99 to subscribe for the month. And that gives you automatic entry into the draw. It would be an awesome Christmas present for you all, wouldn't it? And the most important thing really is it helps support us do more and more of this content. So hope to see you again soon. We'll be making announcements on what's going off timing wise over December. Don't forget, I think the one date to remember is the 17th of December. I have secured, I think, 4 tables for our use at Warhammer World. Warhammer World have confirmed with me. That is for when Patrick Metzer is over from Germany. He's going to be coming to stay for a few days and do a Monday musing with me. But on the Sunday, the 17th, I'm pretty certain it's Sunday the 17th, but I could have got the date wrong. We've got, I think, 4 or 5 tables secured at Warhammer World. So we're going to do a meetup and some gaming and have some fun. So if anybody's in the UK or is going to be in the area, put that date in your diary and let's all get together and have some good old wargaming fun, which is what this is all about, isn't it? Right, good night all. I will cut to end credits and see you again shortly. Thanks very much for joining me. I've really appreciated everybody who's come along and commented in the chat tonight. Had a tough weekend and it's been nice to catch up with all of you wonderful people. See you again soon. Bye.